Last year was also a successful year in terms of economic development. Azerbaijan's economy developed. I believe that the pace of development, if we look at today's world in general, can be seen as positive. The gross domestic product has increased by more than 4%. In fact, the main indicator for us is the development of the non-oil sector. Because, as you know, we have been facing a decline in oil production. And I believe that as a result of the negotiations and efforts made, this decline will be stopped and oil production will remain stable. Thus, the decline in oil production will no longer have a negative impact on the gross domestic product. Therefore, when we look at overall economic indicators, we, first of all, take into account the parameters of the non-oil sector. Here too, the development has been more successful, as it has increased by more than 6%, considering that for many years now, one of our main goals for economic development has been to increase industrial production. Growth in the non-oil industrial sector is even higher. This is more than 7%. In other words, if we look at the growth rates of the world economy and the development rates of developed countries, or rather, their recessions, we will see that the Azerbaijani economy has developed successfully. Of course, this is based on a well-thought-out policy. These indicators are not just the result of the last year. As a result of many years of economic reforms, transparency, the fight against monopolistic trends, attraction of investments, and improvement of the investment climate, we are observing a positive change in the attitude of leading international rating agencies to Azerbaijan. That is, they cannot deny the reality either. However, I believe that our international rating deserves a higher level than it currently is. But for certain reasons, leading rating agencies are still displaying a modest approach. In other words, all this suggests that we have been able to achieve sustainable development in the economic sphere. And I am sure that this dynamic will be maintained this year and in the coming years. As for our financial situation, last year, we were able to significantly improve our performance and increase our reserves. Although last year's budget was at a record level, and many social programs were implemented, including the fact that major funds were mobilized for the restoration of Karabakh. Despite this, we have optimized our processes in such a way that our foreign exchange reserves have further increased. Throughout the year, our foreign exchange reserves increased by more than $5 billion. Today, this figure is equal to $72 billion. For a country with a population of 10 million, this is a very large indicator, because everything is measured in comparison. A calculation of foreign exchange reserves of countries worldwide should, of course, be based on reserves per capita. And according to this indicator, Azerbaijan is among the leading countries in the world. The second important indicator is the ratio of gross domestic products to external debt. I believe that we are among the world leaders here as well, because our external debt accounts for only 7.2% of our gross domestic product. For comparison, I can say that in most developed countries, it is in excess of 100%, and a level of 7.2% is a truly great result. That is why I believe that international rating agencies should demonstrate a fairer position to Azerbaijan. Of course, the comparison of foreign exchange reserves with external debt is also one of the important factors. Here too, our foreign exchange reserves exceed our external debt 14 times. So if someone shows me a second such country, we are talking about developed countries. If anyone can come up with this set of figures, I would certainly be grateful. But there are no such analogues among developed countries. So, all of this gives us reason to say that the economy is stable, relies on its own resources, and does not need any external financing. However, we have now begun to make efforts to slightly increase our external debt. It may increase to some extent, because it has decreased significantly. 5 years ago, when our external debt accounted for about 20% of the gross domestic product, I set a goal that we should reduce it to 10%. Now it is 7.2%. So what will external financing give us? Considering that the country has many serious investment requiring issues, this will slightly reduce the burden on the budget. Therefore, considering that a repayment schedule of our external debt has also been determined, our external debt, which is equal to $5.2 billion today, will decrease even more over the years. Therefore, attracting additional financial resources can be considered expedient, and the government has already begun to work in this direction. I have given the appropriate instructions. Of course, the budget parameters also reflect the economic potential of each country. both parameters and dynamics. That is, this year's budget is at a record high. Budget expenditures exceed 41 billion manats. The overall budget is in excess of 48 billion manats. There has never been such a large budget in the history of Azerbaijan. Listing all these factors, I want to show once again that we have achieved these results solely at the expense of internal resources, as a result of transparency, governance, and sound economic policies. I have repeatedly stated this, and I think everyone now sees this, that the political independence of each country depends on its economic independence. If you are not dependent on anyone in economic and financial matters, you can conduct an independent policy. Therefore, in general, there are, of course, many other parameters, but these are the main economic indicators. Of course, this allows us the opportunity to implement social programs more actively. As you may know, from January 1st this year, the minimum wage increased by 55 manats to reach 400 manats. The minimum pension has increased by 40 manats to reach 320 manats. The average increase is 14–15%. For a country that has made such large investments and has such a tall task of restoring Karabakh, paying attention to this area, of course, shows the essence of our policy. In other words, Azerbaijani citizens should be able to live better year after year. If we compare this increase with the inflation rate, which was a little more than 2% last year, then this increase is just another aid from the government to the vulnerable population. Everything should be fair in society, in politics, and in the family. The principles of social justice have always been important to us. As soon as the opportunity arose, we first of all paid attention to this area. Over the past few years, 4 social packages have been implemented, and more than 7 billion manats have been spent for this purpose. From now on, social and economic development will go hand in hand. As economic opportunities increase, we will always pay attention to addressing social issues, increasing the minimum wage, pensions, and social benefits.
Daim dikkat gösterecek.